All right. Confirm the stream first that it's online. Okay. So I haven't done this in a while but I've been working on this a lot, and in fact, I would say more than half my day for the last 3 months has been taken up by agentic coding. Progress every day has been definitely sketchy. Like some days you get a lot done, sometimes you don't get anything done. Um, a lot of it has to do with, okay, listen, for me, if you want to get stuff done with agentic coding and not just spinning your wheels, you got to have a clear mind. The AI can pump out great code faster than you could ever type, but what you tell it to code, that's on you. If you don't give it the right directions, it will go in the wrong direction. It is not meant to correct the user's mistakes. So for me, I have to make it clear to myself that I must have a very clear vision on what I want to make and why. The how, I'll leave it up to the AI. Okay? So, 3 months after I've been trying to rework an old legacy app to become more portable, more extensible, I want to make it something greater than what it was before. I think I have something there. It doesn't matter if it isn't. I just feel like it needs to be done. And there were a lot of flaws in the way I did it before because, listen, I went to comp sci at U of T, but it will not teach you straight up like what the right model is. Okay, it gives you foundations for how to understand it, but without practical expertise in the field, I don't think anyone could ever get like a fundamental like understanding of how it works. But agentic coding can. It will teach just because you're learning by the process of doing, not just listening. So after 3 months, what I realized is the whole app is basically hinged on this one architecture. Well, I'll read it here. Okay, so you gather all the parameters for a render, you convert to an intermediate render DSL, platform-specific render. I read it out loud. It's like it feels like those PowerPoint presentations that people make in business meetings. Everyone's like saying, "Oh, huh, oh." We're like nodding our heads, but we don't really get it. No, I get it. I actually understand it, like in my brain. It's just when it comes out through words, it sounds like gibberish or like nerd talk. But it's beautiful. Like only by understanding the difficulties of, let's say, you have content you want to render on the screen, and in English it sounds like that's fucking simple. But you get down to the nitty gritty, you'll find that there's a lot of roadblocks you just didn't see coming. Everyone always thinks it's easy, right? It seems so easy, and then somehow when you get down to like, what's it called again? Like you get down like on your knees, or like, you get your knees deep into like the weeds or something. Like, you get actually down to doing it, you will discover there's a plethora of problems that have to be dealt with, and they have to be each dealt with intelligently. Okay? Essentially, the model I've converged on is you want to take the content, which is fed from a DB. DB is the way to go, right? Because DB is updatable, searchable, CRUD, right? It gives you the CRUD SQL layer, all right? And SQL is very platform agnostic, networkable too. Take that, feed it, you give it layout code, or layout definition, like, like how should we lay it out on the screen, a skin, which will define the fonts, the styling, interspacing of letters, whatever you want. Okay, you take it as a tuple, you put it into a URL. And this is great because a URL defines like which content we're targeting. We apply which layout structure. We apply what skin. Now you don't have to if you have a fixed layout skin, it's a lot easier, but I want mine to be extensible because I like apps that have extensible appearances. You don't have to, impose the look onto the user because that's just a style choice, right? So, but like what I learned here was that from this little block of text, it's a very interesting thing that if you do not include the layout skin explicitly, but it's implied in your code, Well, I don't like that design because what happens is like you get mysterious like, well, why does it look like this? And then you got to go back into your code and you're like, oh, it's that line on line 5500 that was driving that little change to the right, and then it's a nightmare. Okay, so if you drive your entire layout by a file, data driven, okay, if there's something wrong with the layout, you know where to look. Okay, so it's compartmentalization, I believe, yes, of responsibilities. Okay, you decouple, you keep the coupling minimal between skin, layout, content. I mean, it's almost like the truth here. Like you do not want to couple this shit together. In my old model, legacy one, it was coupled like crazy. So it's basically like I did it all in code by intuition, and it's faster that way. But what it isn't is extensible, right? So like you could not really extend, like you could not modify the look without like some knees deep, like get in the weeds, like modify code, and that would break everything in the chain because everything's dependent on each other. All right, so I guess what you get here is decoupling. You get independence from each component, and that means each one can be modified without breaking the other, which is the golden hallmark of software engineering. Decoupling, this is how Unix wins out over the decades, as opposed to like Windows architecture, which is heavily coupled. Unix is so long-lived because, and you read about it, is I love Unix way more than like whatever. DOS was changed, right? It became like now you have a command prompt shell. Windows is just really weird to me. Like it's just like we don't know what's what. It's all coupled. It's a coupled mess. You get a good final product, that's for sure, but it's a coupled mess, right? So anyway, if you like the Unix style, the decoupled style, each component stays in its lane, defines a very solid contractual API in a way, and this way you can do a lot of great shit going forward. All right, it responds well to long-term efforts into improving the architecture. I imagine like something like Path of Exile's engine was built with this kind of framework in mind. Okay, then from all that, if you want interoperability between platforms, you should output, not the output. Don't jump to the what is it, like the final output. You in intermediate, like human readable. Now you have like a description of how to render it on screen. The goal would be that if a human read this file, they could draw it out in their notebook. That's exactly what it is, like in a physical notebook, not in like PC, right? In a piece of paper. That's the goal. Then, because you don't want a human to do that, okay, you'll have a renderer, which is now that's the Swift code that takes this file, understands what this is. Now, of course, a renderer in Swift will know what a Swift UI is. It knows how to render stuff in UIKit or Swift UI. Now you can output the final thing to feed to the native UI system to render on the screen. This one sentence took 3 months of coding. Frustrations, but not like bang my head against the wall, but like a lot of I would say a lot of work. It was a lot of brain cells work. Now you might think, gee, was that a waste? Maybe you could have just read a book and shortcutted the whole thing. Maybe it would have sped it up, I think. But by discovering it myself, I think I've internalized this so deep in my brain cells that some people might read this and go like, who cares, bro? No. This is for me is like the understanding of this is really precious to me. It's probably how a lot of like software works in the real world. And had you explained this is how it works in the real world 3 months, I'm like, yeah, I know. Don't tell me. I know how this works. But to understand it to this level, to be able to replicate it on your own instinctively when fed a problem from the outside world. Someone says, I want to make a game, I want to make this. And you would instantly think in your neurons, in your brain to adopt this style. Instantly see how it would be structured. Instantly see what commands you would apply to the agentic coding to recreate the structure. That cannot be taught in a 1-hour lecture. Unfortunately, I don't believe that to be true. It's too much rewiring of your neurons in too short of a time Well, I'm biasing it that way, okay? You could shortcut it, maybe, okay? But it's not, it looks simple, this one line, but I tell you it's anything but, all right? The greatest shit in life, I think, is like it looks simple on the surface, but when you dive deep, it's like the complexity and the depth of it is like immense, all right? Now, though, there's a metacognition shift here. Is it worth it doing all this? Because look, the miracle is that Hackieway I did generate over 1 million USD in income. This is true. And I'm not talking about like, wait, which one is it? Revenue or income? Because the only thing I ever paid was in my time. I didn't pay anybody else to code for me. So a lot of people have make money off something, but they have to pay, this is just all mine. Okay, and my girlfriend at the time, who I paid just to, to motivate me, quote unquote. But mostly it's all my money, right? But you gotta make one thing people don't understand sometimes, right? In 2015, they're coming to me like, yo, I got a great App Store idea. Dude, they did not understand it was 2015 already, all right? In 2010, people may forget the context. That was an era with minimal competition from large companies. A fart app. I remember this clear as day. An app for which you just push buttons and your phone would make random fart sounds would sell for thousands or tens of thousands of dollars USD. Okay, that is only because there's a smartphone boom from the iPhone. Okay, people have now started adopting it. If you were the early adopter, great. If you're the early adopter on the developer side, OMG. Okay, I just happened to luck out. Some girls back in the day were like supporting me, telling me to go for Mac. I want to talk to her again because she was really smart. Her name was, well, I'll never forget her name. It's just that I was like, I want to get a Windows PC again because that's what I'm used to. And then she said, no, probably better go for a Mac because guess what? The Mac is an unknown quantity you have not discovered in your life. It may be a flop, but if you go for Windows, the benefit is known and capped. With the Mac, it is unknown and potentially infinite. This sounds like an AI reasoning logic, and I can't believe someone who was born here in Okinawa. I often deride Okinawa for being like, okay, they're uneducated, they're low on test scores. This is a fact. But a girl who was that pretty and that clever, and I had to rethink things. Anyway, she told me to go for the Mac. And holy fuck, she was right. I mean, like, it was a very pivotal moment because if I had not gone Mac, I would never have started the app. I would have missed out on 1 million USD just because one girl told me, go for the thing that has an unknown quantity in terms of the benefit. Don't play it safe. You're targeting Windows because it's safe. It's the N+1. You don't want the Mac. Why? Because you're scared. Because it's uncertain. You might lose. It's a risk. Well, no risk, no reward, right? Anyway, it helped me land the App Store Gold Rush. And I made it up big. But this new way where you use this method is a lot more difficult, I would say. The income is uncertain. The market is uncertain. But I still want to do it. Because it feels beautiful, like it's closer to truth, and who knows what the ceiling might be. And I just want to do it. I think I have to remind myself every day what it is, why I do this is because I feel like it's a logical extension. It doesn't even matter if someone else does it first. I want to first and foremost do this for myself. Because I owe it to myself, not anyone else. I want to see it happen, and I can make it happen. But a lot of learning is required, and AI has been the breakthrough for me. Without AI, creating a DSL, for example, would be like fucking 2 weeks of work. I swear to God, the coding required would be immense, so much so that I would just stop midway saying, oh, fuck, it's not worth it. The AI will generate a DSL for you in fucking 10 seconds. And one might think, oh, if it can do it, why don't you make the whole thing in 2 minutes? It doesn't work like that. There are things the AI does very well. But what it doesn't do well is integrate these known patterns into something more coherent, congruent, magical for human people. Like this is the part where it does not excel at. You have to fill that blank. The question is, can you? I think I can, but not everyone can. And the one thing I enjoy most is having the clarity. Oh, I love clarity. Clarity is like my drug, okay? I don't know. People like comfort, just doom scroll all day. I know, I get it. I do it too. When I'm tired, when I'm like eat too much, they like ice cream, comfort foods, French fries, hamburgers. I love them too. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, like, the way life has handed me my cards now, I prefer clarity over comfort 1,000 times. Because comfort, the problem with comfort is you feel like shit after. I can't stand that part. It has this, like, I don't know, downside that you have, like, this, the what's it called in alcohol? Fuck, my words are escaping me. The hangovers. Every comfort has a hangover, I tell you, man. Doom scrolling has a hangover. Okay, French fries have hangovers too. It's just not the same kind of alcohol hangover. Okay, there's a crash, right? But clarity, you get to keep the benefits. You grow with clarity. I mean, like, whether it makes you superior or not is a different question. I enjoy it. It's like leveling up in a video game. Who doesn't like leveling up in a video game, right? And leveling up is not a function of comfort, right? Leveling up is you kill monsters and shit. You face challenges, and by doing so, you level up. Now, the game does it explicitly. You actually get more power, but you know what I mean, right? Like, who doesn't want to gain clarity? Clarity to me is like the leveling up experience of life, honestly. Okay? The more clarity you gain, and hopefully it's aligned with the truth, if you get clarity in the wrong direction, but it's so much more fun. Clarity makes life fun, I would say. And one way I gain it is through agentic coding, but I don't think you can do coding. You can do anything you want in life. That's up to you, right? I mean, I think coding is just a good fit because today, I think the LLMs are really good at coding because coding is a very deterministic style of, it's very like, well, it's based on a computer. So it's essentially like a great way to learn like how to gain clarity, how to iterate on your own mental maps, and you see visually how it's going in the thing. And it trains discipline because if you get frustrated, if you want to shortcut to the result, you can shortcut to the result. You incur technical debt. This is why my app hit a ceiling, could not progress forward because it was too glued together with crazy glue at too many points, and it was amazing. It held stable, but after a certain point, it was almost impossible to iterate on without breaking everything. So I don't want that limitation anymore. It's selfish. Maybe it's hubris. I don't know. I got to try. I need to go for the uncertain, asymmetric benefit, and not just the N+1, because N+1 is fine up to a certain point. Then it becomes annoying. Think iPhones. That's an N+1 or even N-1. N goes to K, or I don't know. Like, it's just basically you're not really. You know what I mean, right? iPhones just get incrementally faster, faster or more efficient. But does that really excite anybody? Anyway, that's it for now. That's all I have to share about agentic coding. I like it, but I'm telling you, this thing saps my brain like no tomorrow. Like, I think it's like a high level of neuronal rearrangement in my brain. I really feel it. It's so exhausting. That's why I like to play PoE. Sometimes it's like PoE. If you're playing through a campaign using like what you've known so far is like almost like a zero neural net activity. Like, it's a comfort, right? But this is not comfort. I tell you, this is like, this is like. I think people might think like you just type shit and your thing just magically pops out. Oh, that could not be farther from the truth. I tell you, manual coding looks cool because it looks cool, right? It feels cool. But I've been doing that for like 20 years. It's like you get to a point where like, why am I doing this all over again? You're typing the same pattern again. It's stupid after a certain point. That's why you want AI. That's why you want AI to do that part for you. The stupid, monotonous, boilerplate, we've done it 1,000 times code. How you put it together is the question. That's where the human comes in.